What if I told you you were never supposed to see the Patterson Gimlin film clearly, or Roger Patterson, or Bob Gimlin, and that they were hidden from you by governments? Stick with me, and I'll reveal these secrets. I'll explain some of my techniques and processes. I'll explain how you can get a copy of any of these pictures you're going to see for yourself. Our pictures start with our hero, Roger Patterson, whose father has passed away, and he is a sophomore in high school. Wow, that was fun, and I hope you enjoyed it. All those pictures of my work can be purchased through my store, so please look in the link in the description below. You can even have any of these images on your own coffee mug if you want, so please go look around the store. There's something for everyone. When Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin finally captured on camera what the logging companies knew existed and what the governments of the United States, Canada, and the Soviet Union knew existed, it became a simple formula and mission. Discredit, distract, and deny. They used the technique of discrediting Roger Patterson as a person, as a man, as a war hero, father, entrepreneur, artist, writer, and filmmaker. They focused on two insignificant things to the discovery aspects of Roger. He bounced a check, and he was late returning a rental. That's it. And that's all it took for small minds to instantly draw a line that everything about him must be shady. When in fact, nothing was shady at all about Roger. People who knew him loved him. They liked him. They thought he was fun to be around. After he took the film, small town jealousy set in. And of course, people in his immediate orbit were extremely jealous of his financial and personal success and fame, worldwide fame. So Roger was monitored by several governments for the rest of his life. I won't reveal my source for all these great photographs that I'm bringing to you because that would violate my benefactor's trust. But I'll tell you this much. In the early 1980s, I received my formal training and education as a photographic restoration specialist by Shan Goshorn from the University of Tulsa. I could do a whole video on Shan, and I probably should. And I could do a whole video on photographic processes, and I probably should. But we're all here to talk about the Patterson film, and I know you guys have some unique curiosities about these things I'm doing, so I'm going to try to satisfy that. But I started out specializing in Marshall oils on Kodak Ectolure G papers. I simultaneously, among other companies, owned a small computer operations and went and kept up with every bit of graphic advancement in computers beginning in the 1980s. So it wasn't long before I didn't physically need to use Marshall oils, which is great because they're super toxic. And I was pretty cavalier. I didn't really care. I got them all over myself and the other agents and thinners that were with them, so I don't even want to think about that. But anyway, it wasn't long before I didn't actually need those oils or to rephotograph pictures for restoration. And it became a merger of photographic art and computer science, and it's remained that way to this day. When I restore black and white photographs and carry them into the world of color, I have several specific preferences and techniques that I love, but I should also say there's no one size fits all for anything I do. So it's a case by case, photo by photo, frame by frame adventure. Most of the photographs you see by me were black and whites, and black and white is the sharpest picture you can get. Color film, like Kodak Kodachrome 2 that the Patterson Gimlin film was shot on, is actually a black and white film, but was developed with 3 color processes. In restoration of individual frames, such as the frame 352 that I did that you are all aware of, I used astrophotography stacking techniques. I took the best images of the frame and stacked them on top of each other to various degrees. I also use a not-so-mysterious technique to sharpen my photographs using blurred vision of itself as a mask called unsharp masking. It's abbreviated, it's called USM. And despite its counterintuitive name, it's a primary digital enhancement technique used to sharpen edges and increase local contrast. There are miles and miles of YouTube videos on this subject and technique, and although amateur photographers are ignorant to it, professionals have been using it since they could. I really have 2 color palettes that I use, and that's because I was raised with them, and they are burned into my brain. Those are, drumroll, Technicolor, which went from the 1930s to the 1950s, and Kodak Kodachrome 2. And I'm going to give you a quick run through on them, photographic technician nerd type talk. And we're going to start with Kodak Kodachrome 2, 16mm motion picture film. And you need to know it's a dye coupler free, multi-layer subtractive color reversal film. The color dyes are not in the film when exposed. They are introduced during processing. The film structure has blue, green, and red. It also has a yellow filter layer to prevent blue contamination to the lower layers. It has no incorporated color couplers. You have to do a black and white development of each exposed layer. You bleach it to remove the metallic silver. You re-expose or chemical fog each layer sequentially. Color developers are introduced through dyes and developer-carried couplers. So you get the red sensitive layer, the green sensitive layer, the blue sensitive layer, and then finally a removal, which relieves only one dye image. It has very high stability and has archival longevity. It's extremely grain-free. It's very sharp for color separation as well. I love it, that's why. And it's got a tight process and tolerances. The next one, probably everyone's all-time favorite, but I would like to think, but mine for sure, is Technicolor. And it's a 3-strip dye transfer process, and it's evolved through multiple systems, but it's the classic Technicolor that was used from about 1932 through 1955. And it's not a color film stock in the usual sense. It's a color separation or capture plus dye transfer printing system. It specializes with a beam splitting camera that captures the image, and it records it in 3 different film strips, a red strip, a green strip, and a blue strip. And then each record is a black and white negative of the film. The printing process is that each separated negative creates a gelatin relief matrix. Each matrix is soaked in dye. The dyes are successfully transferred onto a blank receiving film. It has extremely saturated colors, exceptional control and color. It's very durable. It's flexible. It's very expensive and mechanically complex. I mean, when people did these things by hand, a single print would take an entire day. So that later evolved into just what's known as Eastman Color. And Eastman Color is a single strip, multi-layer negative film with incorporated dye couplers. And like Kodachrome, 3 emulsion layers are sensitive to the red, green, and blue, but unlike Kodachrome, the couplers are embedded into each layer. So it's a completely different process in the way you develop it. Now, I mentioned the 3 colors in developing the film. All right, the red, green, and blue. But then there's another technique, and that's adding a black strip. So you may see when you adjust with your photographic program, you may use a CMW filter and sometimes a CMY filter or a CMY and a B filter, and the B stands for black. The black just really adds the crispness, and when I started doing that, I really had a major breakthrough in my process. So that's kind of a breakdown. So depending on the photograph, kind of depends which Todd Gatewood adaptive method I use, if I'm allowed to speak in the third person. Most of the photos that are seen today were Technicolor and were done in at least 4 layers. And I mentioned black and white being the sharpest of all the photographic processes, and that was my real breakthrough with the Patterson Gimlin film as well as a restoration specialist, is when I started incorporating a crisp black and white layer to the picture. And when this light bulb went off in my head, because not all film use black keys, is when I started using it. I had momentous strides in advancement. Nobody told me to do it. It's just something I figure out as a trial and error, trying to recreate a Technicolor print, which chemically done, as I mentioned, takes a technician an entire day. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing this video. Thank you for just visiting my store. Remember, you don't need to find love, because you came from it.